My uncle stood up at my grandmother's 80th birthday dinner, looked directly at me across the table and said, "Let's be honest, Rebecca has never once put this family first. She shows up, eats the food, and disappears. Some of us actually sacrifice for this family. 19 people at that table. My grandmother sitting at the head of it, looking uncomfortable. Nobody said a word. I set my fork down. I looked at my uncle. And I said, "Actually, I'd like to respond to that." I reached into the bag beside my chair and placed a gray folder on the table. My uncle laughed. "What is that, your diary?" I opened it to the first page and slid it toward the center of the table. He stopped laughing. "My name is Rebecca Holt. I am 41 years old. I am a licensed estate attorney. And by the time my grandmother finished her birthday cake that evening, my uncle understood exactly what 19 years of never putting the family first actually looked like in a legal document. Before I tell you what was in that folder, tell me the city you are watching from right now. Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. My uncle, Gerald, was my father's younger brother. He had spent his entire adult life operating on the assumption that he was the family's most important member, a belief he maintained through a combination of loud opinions, selective memory, and the fact that he had never once been challenged directly. He organized the family gatherings. He decided who was invited. He delivered verdicts on other people's choices from the comfortable position of someone who had never had his own choices examined closely. For 19 years, I had been his preferred target. The pattern was consistent. Whenever I missed a gathering due to work, I was an estate attorney. My schedule was not always my own. Gerald made sure the absence was noted and interpreted. Whenever I couldn't contribute to a family project, Gerald found a way to mention it at the next event. Whenever someone complimented something I had achieved, Gerald would locate the nearest qualification. He was not cruel exactly. He was the specific kind of family member who treats diminishment as a form of honesty. What Gerald did not know, what he had never bothered to find out, was why my schedule was so often unavailable. My grandmother, Eleanor Holt, had been the quiet center of our family for 80 years. She had outlived my grandfather by 14 years, maintained her home independently, and navigated the bureaucratic complexity of aging with the specific kind of stubborn dignity that I recognized and admired. What she had not done for most of those 14 years was navigate it alone. I had been her estate attorney since my grandfather died. Formally, professionally, with proper documentation and no charge to her whatsoever. I had spent 19 years managing her property filings, her trust amendments, her healthcare directives, her tax documentation, and the half-dozen legal matters that arise when an elderly woman owns property, has multiple adult children with competing interests, and wants her wishes honored after she is gone. Gerald had no idea any of this was happening. Neither did most of the family. My grandmother had asked me to keep the arrangement private because she didn't want her children fighting over her estate while she was still alive to watch it. I had respected that completely. But she had kept every document, every filing, every letter, every amended trust provision, every hour of work, logged and dated, going back 19 years. 3 weeks before her birthday dinner, my grandmother had called me. She said she was tired of watching Gerald dismiss me at family events. She said she had been patient long enough. She asked me to bring the folder to her birthday dinner, not to use it, but to have it available in case it became necessary. I had told her I hoped it wouldn't be necessary. Gerald made it necessary in the first 40 minutes. When he finished his speech about sacrifice and family loyalty, he sat back with the satisfied expression of a man who believes he has just said something important. Two of my cousins nodded automatically. My aunt looked at the centerpiece. I reached into my bag. I placed the gray folder on the table. I said, "Actually, I'd like to respond to that." Gerald laughed. He asked if it was my diary. I opened to the first page and slid it toward him. What he was looking at was a document index. 19 years of legal work, organized by year, each entry listing the matter, the filing date, the outcome, and the estimated market value of the services rendered had they been billed at my standard rate. The total at the bottom of the index was $312,000. Not money I had charged. Money I had given, in the form of professional legal services, to the grandmother sitting at the head of the table eating her birthday dinner. Gerald stared at the page. He looked up at me. He looked at my grandmother. She was eating her cake and watching him with the calm expression of a woman who has been waiting a long time for a particular moment to arrive. "This," I said, "is 19 years of estate legal work I have provided to Grandma at no charge. Every trust amendment, every property filing, every healthcare directive, every tax document, dated, logged, and documented." I looked at Gerald. I've missed family dinners because I was in a filing office on her behalf. I've been unavailable on holidays because I was reviewing documents that protected her estate. I haven't talked about it because she asked me not to. I paused. But since we're discussing who puts this family first, I thought the full record was relevant. The table was completely quiet. Gerald opened his mouth. He said he hadn't known. I told him that was apparent. He said I should have said something. I told him my grandmother had asked me not to, and that I had respected her wishes, which was something he might consider trying. He said this wasn't the appropriate time or place to discuss legal matters. I said, "You chose the time and place when you stood up at her birthday dinner and described me in front of 19 people. I'm simply responding in the same setting." My grandmother set her fork down. She looked at Gerald. She said, "She has been taking care of me for 19 years. Gerald, quietly, without asking for anything. I asked her to bring that folder tonight because I am 80 years old and I am tired of watching you speak about her that way." Gerald said nothing after that, not for the rest of the evening. My cousin, Gerald's daughter, came to find me before everyone left. She said she hadn't known about any of it. She said she was sorry for the things her father had said over the years. I told her it wasn't her apology to make. The legal work continues. My grandmother is 80 years old, and her estate is in excellent order. I filed her latest trust amendment 6 weeks after her birthday dinner on a Thursday afternoon between 2 other client matters. Gerald has not made a comment about my contribution to this family since that evening. I don't know if that represents a change of heart or simply a change of strategy. Either way, the folder is back in my office, and the gray cover is beginning to soften slightly at the corners, which I think is what 19 years of being handled carefully looks like. Now I want to hear from you. If someone spent years dismissing everything you quietly did for the people you loved, would you have opened that folder? Or would you have stayed silent to keep the peace? Tell me in the comments. And tell me the city you are watching from right now. I want to see exactly how far Rebecca's story has reached. Subscribe before you go. More stories are coming that you will not want to miss.